You guys can skip on over to lesson 5.3 in your book. It'll be page 171. We've already gone over some of this chapter, so this lecture will actually be really short. We're just going over what we haven't gone over yet as far as the muscles go. Talk about movement, so you guys are going to have to get up out of your seats a little bit, and I'll get up out of mine too, and then we'll go from there. All right, major skeletal muscles. So these are the different things we're going to talk about. Directional motions is what we're really going to focus on today, because we've already talked about the different muscles. All right, so, and you guys may not be aware of this, but did you know we have more than 650 muscles in our body? And think about all the bones, then we got muscles. Pretty crazy to think about. Okay, skeletal muscle attachment. So the origin is the fixed end of the muscle, and the insertion point is the movable end. So when you think about it, the origin is kind of like where the muscle starts, and the insertion is the end. So for example, so your biceps, okay, the origin is actually your scapula, right? So it's actually your scapula way up here. Okay, but the insertion point is the radius. Okay, your radius, remember, is on your thumb side, so it's down here. Okay, well, when I flex my bicep, my forearm, right, my radius is what moves. So that's how I know that that's the insertion, and the origin is up here. When I flex my bicep, my scapula doesn't move, my shoulder doesn't move. This does. Okay, so the insertion point is like the end of it. Where does it go that makes it move? The triceps is attached to the scapula, and it's attached to the humerus, right? The scapula and the humerus. It's inserted at the ulna. I'm going crazy today. I think I'm tired. So the ulna is your pinky bone back here, right? So you think about your triceps. It's attached up here. It's attached at the humerus, and then it comes down and it's attached over your elbow, kind of to the ulna. Okay. When I flex my tricep, I'm extending my arm, because my ulna is moving backwards, right? So that's how you know origin versus insertion. And that's where the names, like we talked about sternocleidomastoid, right? It helps us move our neck. So the origin then would be at the sternum, and the insertion point then would be the mastoid, okay? Sternocleidomastoid. And you'll see that in there. You know, you'll see those names a lot. All right, sagittal plane movement. So remember, your sagittal plane is front, right? Your sagittal plane goes right down the middle. So let's look at these. So flexion, it says this is the forward bending, and we're talking about movement, the forward bending of the head, trunk, upper arm, forearm, hand, hip, backward motion. So if you think about your sagittal plane, okay, it's going to cross, it's going to be on that plane, I guess, is what I'm saying. So it says forward bending of the head, the trunk, right, forward bending. Think about how that goes, okay? It says the body surfaces tend to come together, right? So if you bend over, your head, your anterior surface of your head touches the anterior surface of your legs. Mine doesn't, but in theory. Okay, extension, this is the return from the flexion to the correct position. If I bend over, this is flexion. Okay, this is extension. It goes back to the normal place. Flexion, extension, right? Hyperextension. Okay, think hyper is too much, it's excessive. It means it bends backward too far. It bends farther than its normal degree. So think about your knees, okay? So think bending your knee backwards, okay? That's flexion, right? Extension is straightening it back out, and hyperextension is straightening it so far forward that it actually bends backward. Okay, now dorsiflexion and plantar flexion are both in your feet. So dorsiflexion is specifically, you think it's backwards, okay? But you think about the top of your foot trying to move backwards. So I can't really show you this very well. So, okay, think about your foot, and I'll turn this way. Okay, so dorsiflexion is when you try to move the top of your foot up towards your shin, like up towards your tibia, right? You're bringing your surfaces together. Okay, plantar flexion is where plantar is the sole of your foot. That's the surface of the sole of your foot. Plantar flexion then is where you point your toe. Plantar flexion is like pointing your toe. Okay, so that's those terms. All right. Frontal plane movement. So they're going to move on this plane, or your frontal plane. Okay, abduction. There's a couple ways to remember this. One, you think abduct, it moves away, right? If somebody abducts someone, they take them away. Or one way to remember this is the B in abduct points away from the A. The D in adduct points towards the A. Right? So abduct, okay, with the B means you're moving it away this way. Okay? It's on that frontal plane, right? It's going this way. So that's abduct. Adduct then would be moving back towards the midline of the body. That movement, this is adduct, abduct. Adduct, abduct. All right? Okay, inversion and eversion, these are typically your foot. So inversion is where you roll your sole of your foot to the inside. Okay, so it's like you're moving your ankle. Okay, so myself over here. Okay, so if you take your foot, you move your foot to your sole of your foot to the inside. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of this. Okay, but that is inversion. Eversion be where you roll the sole of your foot laterally, right to the outside. That's eversion. All right, radial deviation and ulnar deviation. So radial deviation, think about your radius. Okay, you move it. You move your thumb towards the radius. So this way, like if you're waving, okay, think about how you wave. Okay, radial deviation, ulnar deviation. Radial, ulnar. Okay, move your hand towards the radius or towards the ulna. A couple other things when I put on here was the trunk. You have lateral flexion. Okay, move side to side, right? And then lateral extension, moving it back up. I guess flexion, extension. Also at the neck. All right, transverse plane movement. So remember, this is this plane that goes this direction. Okay, so think rotation, medial rotation, lateral rotation, moving your head. Okay, that would be on a transverse plane movement, left to right rotation. Medial or lateral, that's like moving it towards, like if you think about I'm moving my whole arm, this would be medial, lateral, same thing with the leg, right? Moving it towards the midline or out, away. And then pronation and supination are specific to the forearm. You think about the word pronate, okay, right? It means towards the ground. So like if you're lying prone, if you've learned that term before, okay, prone, you're laying on your face, same thing. So you think about anatomical position, and this is specific to forearm movements or wrist movements, right? This is pronation. This is supination. Pronation, where your palms are down. Supination, palms are up. Pronate, supinate. Now you actually have a supinator muscle in your forearm and a pronator muscle in your forearm. You usually have people learn that. We didn't do it this year. Oh, the other two. Sorry, circumduction. Thought I was done. Circumduction is moving it in a circle. Think circumference. Okay, so this is circumduction. Right? You can do that with your legs. You can do that with your head. Those are all circumduction. Fingers. And then opposition is specific to your thumb, right? It moves your thumb towards your fingers. That's opposition, okay? So that's specific to the thumb. And I think, my friends, that is it. Okay, so that's the movement. You guys, not to play Simon Says if you want to, or whatever, but those are, that is the movements, and you do need to know those. Okay, the vocabulary there's quite a bit of vocabulary on this test, so make sure you're learning the vocabulary. Those movements. My suggestion is when you guys are studying them, do just like we did. Get up, move it around. Okay, move it as you're learning them. Pronate, supinate, pronate, supinate. Oops, I did that backwards. Pronate, supinate, pronate, supinate. Okay, so practice them that way. I don't care. During the test, you may be moving your head all around, but that's a good way to learn it. Okay.